Hey guys, welcome back. So today we'll be going over evaluating a rational expression. So let's look at our first example. So let's say we have this expression here, x squared minus 2x plus 1 over x squared minus 9. So let's say we had to evaluate this expression and say that x equals 1. So wherever there's an x, I'm going to replace my x with a 1. So we have 1 squared minus 2 times 1 plus 1 over 1 squared minus 9. 1 squared is going to give me 1. Negative 2 times 1, that's going to give us a negative 2. And then we have a positive 1, so I'm going to put plus 1 here. My denominator, we have 1 squared, that's going to equal 1 minus 9. So my numerator, we have 1 minus 2 plus 1. That's going to give us a negative 1 plus 1. And 1 minus 9, that's going to give us a negative 8. So my numerator, we have negative 1 plus 1 is going to equal 0. And that's going to be over a negative 8. And 0 divided by negative 8, this is going to equal 0. So your final answer here is going to be 0. Let's look over here. Let's say x equals negative 1. So wherever there's an x, I'm going to put a negative 1. So I'm going to put negative 1 squared minus 2 times negative 1 plus 1. In my denominator, we have negative 1 squared minus 9. So negative 1 squared, this is going to be a positive 1 minus 2 times negative 1. That's going to equal a positive 2. And then we have our positive 1 here. I'm going to add my plus 1 here. In my denominator, we have negative 1 squared. That's going to be a positive 1 minus 9 in our denominator. So in my numerator, we have 1 plus 2 plus 1. That's going to equal 4. And then my denominator, we have 1 minus 9. That's going to equal a negative 8. But notice in this example here, we can simplify my 4 over the 8 because the number 4 goes into both 4 and 8. So 4 divided by 4 equals 1. And then negative 8 divided by 4, that's going to give us a negative 2. So your final answer is going to be negative 1 over 2. What if I said x equals 0? Wherever there's an x, I'm going to add a 0. So we have 0 squared minus 2 times 0 plus 1. And then my denominator, we have 0 squared minus 9. So 0 squared here, that's going to be 0 minus 2 times 0 is going to equal 0. And then plus 1, which is from here. And then my denominator, we have 0 squared, which is 0 minus 9. So my numerator, we have 0 minus 0 plus 1. That's going to give us a positive 1. And then my denominator, we have 0 minus 9. That's going to give us a negative 9. So your final answer is negative 1 over 9. And remember, you can write your negative at the bottom, or you can even write your negative on top with your numerator. So let's say x equals 2. So wherever there's an x, I'm going to replace that with a 2. So I have 2 squared minus 2 times 2 plus 1 in my numerator. In my denominator, we have 2 squared minus 9. So 2 squared here, that's going to equal 4 minus 2 times 2, which is going to equal a negative 4, and then plus 1. My denominator, we have 2 squared here, that's going to equal 4 minus 9. So my numerator, 4 minus 4 plus 1, that's going to give us a positive 1. And then 4 minus 9, that's going to give us a negative 5. So your final answer is 1 over negative 5, or you can write negative 1 over 5. So let's look at this expression here. Let's say x equals 0. Wherever there's an x, I'm going to add my 0. So we have 0 plus 2 times 0 minus 3 in my numerator. My denominator, we have 0 plus 1 times 0 minus 4. So my numerator, 0 plus 2, that's going to give us a 2, times 0 minus 3, that's going to give us a negative 3. My denominator, 0 plus 1 is 1, and then times 0 minus 4, that's going to be a negative 4. So my numerator here, 2 times negative 3 is going to equal negative 6. over 1 times negative 4, that's going to equal a negative 4. Negative divided by negative is going to be a positive, so that's going to be 6 over 4. However, I can simplify my 6 over 4 because the number 2 goes into both my 6 and the 4. So 6 divided by 2, and then 4 divided by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3, and then 4 divided by 2 is 2. So your final answer is 3 over 2. So let's look here. Let's say x equals 1. So wherever there's an x, I'm going to replace with a 1. So we have 1 plus 2 times 1 minus 3. And then my denominator, we have 1 plus 1 times 1 minus 4. So 1 plus 2, this is going to equal 3, times 1 minus 3 is going to equal negative 2. My denominator, we have 1 plus 1 is going to equal 2, times 1 minus 4, that's going to equal negative 3. So my numerator, 3 times negative 2 is going to be negative 6. My denominator, 2 times negative 3, that's also going to be a negative 6. So negative 6 divided by negative 6 is going to equal a positive 1. So your final answer is 1. So let's say we had x equals 3 with the same expression. Wherever there's an x, I'm going to replace that with a 3. So we have 3 plus 2 times 3 minus 3 in my numerator, and then 3 plus 1 times 3 minus 4 in my denominator. So 3 plus 2, this is going to equal 5, times 3 minus 3, that's going to equal 0. And then 3 plus 1 is going to equal 4, times 3 minus 4, that's going to equal a negative 1. So my numerator, 5 times 0 is going to equal 0. And then my denominator, 4 times negative 1, this is going to equal a negative 4. So 0 divided by negative 4 is going to equal 0. So your final answer is 0. Let's look at this expression, x squared plus 1 over 3x. And let's say x equals 3. So wherever there's an x, I'm going to replace that with a 3. So we have 3 squared plus 1 over 3 times 3. 3 squared is going to equal 9 plus 1. And then my denominator, we have 3 times 3, that's going to equal 9. So my numerator, 9 plus 1 is 10. That's going to be over 9. Your final answer is 10 over 9. If you turn this into a mixed number, because we have an improper fraction here, you can do 9 goes into 10 one time. 9 times 1 is 9. 10 minus 9 is 1. So if you turn it into a mixed number, you're going to get 1 and 1/9. So these are your answers here. So let's look at this expression here, x squared minus 4x plus 4 over x squared minus 25. And let's say we say x equals negative 4. So wherever there's an x, I'm going to replace that with a negative 4. So we have negative 4 squared minus 4 times negative 4 plus 4. And then my denominator, we have negative 4 squared minus 25. Negative 4 squared in my numerator, we're going to get 16 plus negative 4 times negative 4. That's going to give us a positive 16. So I'll write 16 there. And then we have our plus 4 right here. So my denominator, we have negative 4 squared. That's also going to give us 16 minus 25. So my denominator, 16 plus 4, that's going to equal 36. And then my denominator, we have 16 minus 25. That's going to give us a negative 9. 36 divided by negative 9, I can simplify that, is going to equal negative 4. So your final answer is negative 4. So let's say we had the expression 9x squared over x squared plus 1. And we said x equals negative 1. So wherever there's an x, I'm going to replace that with a negative 1. So we have 9 times negative 1 squared over negative 1 squared plus 1. And notice here we have negative 1 squared, that's going to equal 1. So my numerator, we have 9 times 1. And then my denominator, negative 1 squared, is going to equal 1 plus 1. So my numerator, we have 9 over 2, because 9 times 1, that's going to give us a 9. And then 1 plus 1 is going to give us a 2. So your final answer is 9 over 2. Now, if you want to turn this into a mixed number, because this is an improper fraction, then we're going to divide. 2 goes into 9 4 times. 2 times 4 is 8. 9 minus 8 is going to equal 1. So if you turn it into a mixed number, you're going to get 4 and 1/2. So these are your answers here. All right, so that is all for today, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.